panelists, Abhinav, Ved, and Niranjan. It's good to see you. Today, what we're going to do is just go around the table, talk about how fintech has impacted our lives, especially over the last 10 years. Why we'll talk about the last 10 years and, with a focus on India is that 2010 marked the setup of Aadhaar in India, which essentially is responsible for the big boom that we're seeing in fintech today. I remember, and this came up in a couple of panels yesterday as well. I remember reading an article about maybe 10 or 12 years back, which said that a country like Pakistan, whose economy was and is still floundering, had more mobile payments than India did, right? And at that point of time, we had every possible a gap or challenge that the regulator or the government would put forth. That was kind of coming in our way. Over the past 5 or 6 years, of course, we've seen the digital stack, which is known as the India stack, come into play with a host of KPIs, connectivity, and various other initiatives, culminating in the rollout of the JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile, which is kind of, and with services like UPI being built on that, it has seen a huge spurt in fintech, right? As users from different perspectives, you've seen how fintech has impacted your life, and I think we're going to spend the next few minutes, trying to understand each of your experiences. What are the opportunities that you see? What are the challenges that you see? And so that we can give the audience a flavor of how fintech can impact our lives. So, just to kick off, what we're going to do is, if for the benefit of the audience, you can just introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you think of how this whole digital revolution, especially in the fintech space, has affected you as users. I'll just go by the order I can see you on the screen, so no bias is there. So I'll just kick off with Abhinav, who's popping up on my screen first, and then we'll go to Ved and Niranjan. So Abhinav, if we could hear a bit from you, then we'll move on to the others.
Thanks, Prasad. Thank you so much. Now, I don't have much to add here because fintech is such a vast beat in today's day and age that, and the story was entirely different a year ago. I remember when COVID had struck, a lot of people were reluctant in using payment apps. And with the moment COVID surged, there was a surge in the number of downloads of the payment apps, be it Paytm, Google Pay, or other players. But as the time has elapsed, and with the Narendra Modi's vision of making India digital, this is the first budget which was recently presented in the in the digital only format. What is expected is that more and more people will join this fintech revolution, especially youngsters, because it's handy for them. Of course, there is a challenge in presenting the same case study to the elderlies, but as we go forward, I see more and more people jumping onto the fintech bandwagon because firstly, it's handy, it's safe, and thirdly, it is quite easy. And this is from the demand side. From the supply side, what I see is more and more fintech players, and especially startups, jumping onto the bandwagon, and not only in the typical banking and financial category, but also in the asset management category. It's a good data collection tool for them. So it matches both the demand and supply side. So I see only positive growth for them, for the fintech, especially in India, per se.
Great, Abhinav, thanks. But before we move on to Ved, just for the benefit of the audience, if you could give a quick background of yourself so that they know who they're hearing from.
You're talking to me, Prasad?
Yeah, Abhinav, I'm talking.
Okay. So I'm the managing editor at BWTV and Digital. I lead the video initiatives here. And a lot of videos, you'll see my ugly face on Business World. So apart from that, we try to simplify business and financial content. We try to connect the complicated jargons which the financial world has and the other sectors have, and try to make business content as much quirky and as much consumable for the youth in their language. So yeah, that's what we do.
Sure, I appreciate it. And it's good to know that you bring your other ugly face to the videos because you seem to have brought the better one today to us. Let's move to Ved. Ved, let's hear it from you. If you can just tell the audience a little bit about your background and Obviously, given your initiatives in the B2B space, I'm sure.
And of course, the UPI and the Aadhaar and everything. So the digital railroads which the government has managed to build, on which we are all running, right? So the interesting part is that it's very relevant to tell here Nilkanni was there, renowned people who are responsible for this revolution, and then so they said there are four internets in the world. So everything is digital and fintech is running on internet. So they said there are four kind of internets, right? One is the US internet, which is responsible for building these high deep tech companies like Google and Facebook and everything. Then there is the Chinese internet, which is firewalled, right? It's very hard to get in and very difficult walled space, which managed to build companies like Taobao and Alibaba and stuff like that. And then there is the European internet, which is very, very regulated, it's difficult to build stuff there. And then comes the Indian internet, which is like, more inclusive, more free, right? And I mean, a lot of opportunities. So the kind of internet India has, gives us a lot of opportunity to build. And that's how we have seen this fintech revolution, which is like really steamrolled even before COVID. So when the demonetization happened, after that, Paytm became like, that was the aha moment and the defining moment for Paytm and the fintech in India, I guess. Because prior to that, we had, with our startup, we had been trying to integrate fintech in our system, but it was very difficult. There was reservations, and as Abhinav said, that people were wary of how to use and why to use because of the security issues, and there had been cases where people had been robbed of their things. So I mean, it was very difficult, and the retailers, from my perspective, the retailers were very wary of coming completely on board online, because there are a lot of these deals which were happening where this was like the wholesaler and the retailer, we all know how the Parchi culture used to work. So there was no accountability, transparency into the whole system. So I think with these two things, I would like to conclude that we have an inclusive internet. We have a resurgent Indian youth, which is very entrepreneurial in nature. So, and then we have the digital railroads, built by the governments, where UPI come in, and so there is huge opportunity for local entrepreneurs, Indian entrepreneurs, to build on that, offer services, not only payment services, but as Abhinav said, various asset management services. And one more thing I would like to point here is that, India is now moving into the different kind of loan disbursements and credit stuff. So we are now would be a micro credit economy, right? So micro credit would be very, very high, where small ticket sizes like something like a cash flow loan, or even to buy stuff on EMI. I mean, that would be things of the future. I mean, coming forward, and especially post pandemic, when, as Abhinav said, that and as Prasad, you also pointed out, that during the pandemic everything changed. The habits changed. I mean, we were who were never thinking of being online were online. Not only the younger generation but the older also. And these habits are going to stick, right? They're not going to go back that, okay, fine, now I'm going back to my cash. So humongous opportunities, I mean, way forward on fintech. I'm very optimistic about it. Thank you.
Excellent. Great way. So I think we'll move now to Niranjan. Niranjan, you have been part of a more traditional business. Although I do know that you've been working very closely with some modern business as well. But, I think in terms of being a user who's deep into traditional businesses, if we can also hear your thoughts in terms of how you've seen, especially, interfacing with government, interfacing with, other players in your business, how the evolving digital ecosystem and the fintech platforms have impacted your life. So if you can just give a quick overview of your background to the audience, and then tell us a little bit about your experiences over the past few years, then we'll kind of open it up to the other talking points. So, anyways, let's come back to you. So I think Abhinav, when you were talking earlier, and I think it's been a little bit of a theme in what Ved said, and I'm sure it would have come the same way out of Niranjan as well. COVID has made a huge difference, right? Earlier I was talking to somebody and we said that technology is disruptive, but sometimes to get technology to be adopted, something further disruptive needs to happen. It happened once before when we had demonetization in India, and irrespective of whether people have a positive or negative view of it, it did lead to a lot of adoption of cashless and digital payments. And likewise, COVID, right? We've seen it's gone far beyond just payments, right? Even lenders, for example, are doing cashless digital processes. So as an end user, A, and B, as somebody who's also on the side of the media, educating and informing the consumer about the developments in the financial and fintech world, how do you see specific instances that have made your life positive from this perspective, and what are the challenges that you're still seeing which we need to overcome?
Well, since I am you'll see me on the lobby which is supporting fintech. I'll talk of challenges first, and then the good picture later on. The biggest challenge is Prasar, of course, because it's not technology which is a concern, it's finance in the end. You're talking about people's savings, people's deposits, and people spending money and doing transactions. So the biggest concern which people still have and are still reluctant to adopt financial technology, and I'm talking about the demand side, it's security, it's financial security. Because we're also seeing more and more cyber crimes being reported as fintech adoption increases in the country. We are seeing a lot of cyber crimes being reported. So security, of course, is one of the concerns. And security is not only confined to the elderlies, but also to the youngsters, who are using a lot of payment apps. Secondly, fintech has a very deep penetration in the NBFC and the banking category. But when it comes to asset management, the use is very confined. The asset management industry is still yet to explore the advantages of fintech. And we are also hosting one more panel discussion in the evening on a similar topic of financial technology and asset management. So when it comes to mutual funds, the adoption is still slow, but otherwise, so far and so forth, we are on the right path. And also government has been supporting digital transactions, digital innovations on a big scale. Startups are being welcomed. There are concessions given to startups. So overall, the environment is positive. Like I said, the challenge is, of course, security. But going forward, what I see is, Prasar, wherever there is a boon, there is also a bane. And like I said, when it comes to cybersecurity challenges, there are also a lot of micro players who have come up, who give a lot of unsecured loans with minimum KYC documents and minimum security check. And there have been a lot of frauds which have been reported in the past few months and years. So the biggest concern or challenge which I see going forward is, of course, security and the legitimacy of the companies. We have a lot of fly-by-night companies operating in this space as well. But there is a bane as well. So fintech is handy, it's advantageous if the industry can address the concerns of security and, of course, having an entry barrier so that no Tom, Dick and Harry can just enter and start a fintech company. I think fintech will be adopted very fast in India. What India has shown in the past is that we are slow adopters of technology, but when we do, we get there very fast. So yeah, that's an overall moti what I think about the user experience.
Certainly, but Abhinav, if you could, for example, give us some anecdotes or some incidents that you may have seen of how, whether it's in your life or whether it is in the lives of people that you interact with, where fintech has made a substantive difference, right? Obviously, we see a lot of anecdotes in terms of, financial inclusion, payments becoming easier, for example, lending becoming easier. But how, have you seen any specific profound impact, maybe one or two examples where, just the whole experience of utilizing a particular service has changed, and that's changed people's lives for the better, whether it's your own or people that you've seen? experienced that?
I won't say from the demand side, Prasad, but supply side definitely. I mean, the people who have adopted digital payments as a mode of acceptance, like a lot of retail shops, ration ki dukane, chote businesses who used to earlier operate on cash, them migrating towards digital mode of transactions has not only helped them survive the COVID pandemic, but also helped them adopt a lot more new customers. So if I see, and there are millions of case studies across the country, even मेरे घर के नीचे जो रिटेल की दुकान है अभी, I mean, they never used to accept card payments, and now they have all kinds of payments being accepted at their front. So if I see a rampant change, it is on the demand side. So the supply side. People who have been accepting digital payments as the mode of transactions, their life has quadrupled. I mean, they find access to consumers which were not even there in the ambit earlier. So if you ask me some specific, I cannot remember one or two specific instances, but overall, if I have a collective look, then definitely small businesses have benefited a lot. And by a lot, I mean the volume has been more than the pre-COVID times after adopting the digital mode of transactions. So yeah, that is one area where I would say that life has changed for these small retailers and small businesses post adopting financial technology.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Yeah. So I think, picking up from that cue, Ved, I think, given that you interact a lot with, the shopkeepers, small level suppliers, right? Or let's say street level suppliers. Have you seen COVID change? Because, I do know we had some conversations and, you were seeing adoption happening, but there was also certain resistance, right? Have you seen both the adoption going up and resistance falling? And, on what account do you see those benefits accruing to the stakeholders that you're interacting with? And how much of that has been, a COVID-driven one, and how much of it has been just because we have now so much better digital and fintech stack in the country?
As in any industry, right? What had happened is that I was just reading a report yesterday, which said that the kind of e-commerce growth US had seen in last 10 years. I mean, this is really crazy. The entire level of growth which had happened in 10 years happened in just 3 months, right? So, I mean, COVID has, completely it had, accelerated and cut the time frame of digital adoption by at least 10 years, So something which would have happened 10 years later had happened today, right? Or yesterday, as of yesterday, because of the COVID. So that is the kind of massive impact COVID has had, right? And obviously, the supply side, the retailers, the small businesses, the kirana stores and the corner stores which we deal with, by design and default had to adopt to it. So that is one. But essentially, as Abhinav was saying, that demand side, this had suddenly happened and started happening post demonetization itself, right? The adaptation on the fintech bandwagon. For example, traditionally, even a local grocer used to give credit to its, nearby families. Now, I mean, what had happened is that there is companies like OK Credit, right, which just give the backend to the supplier, and the supplier can actually upload everything every family's detail and every transaction detail he's doing there, and then there are automated SMSs going and collections reminders going and stuff like that. So there has been a lot of these kind of innovative startups which have come. Khatabook, if you have heard of, right? Khatabook is like something which is like humongous adaptation with the this retail segment, these small guys. So of course, I mean, this is like one is it is because of these two major events in terms of the disruptions which happened in our lives, the demonetization and the COVID, and in overall, because as I earlier said, that because the government has been very, very proactive, and with Aadhaar and UPI, the railroads are there where everything can be built, right? So, our agile entrepreneurs have built stuff where, as the suppliers and as consumers, we are happy to use it, right? So, I mean, as Abhinav said, we are very, very positive on how things are going to go. There are certain flip sides, yes, of course, and I think that government will slowly and gradually control, because regulations come as soon the industry evolves. So it is bound to happen, right? And if the government is thinking right, then all those kind of disparities will not come in, as in where the 2008 meltdown because of Ninja financing. I mean, I don't think India is going to see that. So let's see.
So yeah, I think that does make a lot of sense. But I think the audience also might be interested in hearing a little bit about in your conversations with the stakeholders, especially the retailers and the other B2B players that you deal with. How have they benefited from See, look, I think the one issue that we've seen in India, and all of us will acknowledge, is that there has been reluctance. And Abhinav spoke about the fact that it's driven by a sense of risk about your own money. But there's been a event which has driven adoption, and now that they've adopted, are they seeing certain specific benefits that they didn't realize that they were getting earlier? Maybe the fact that they don't have to give credit to the nearby families that you were saying, right? Somebody is now using a credit card, doesn't need to ask the grocer for credit, right? Or in terms of being able to get better credit from their suppliers because they have digital payments. The government is already incentivizing digital payments, right? People who are taking up digital payments are also in our just previous session that just ended, somebody was telling that in their interactions with a certain type of stakeholders, the adoption rate of GST has gone up from 8% to maybe 45% in a matter of a couple of years or 3 years, right? So obviously people coming into the formal economy have access to better credit. So in your conversations with these stakeholders, what is it that you're hearing that's kind of emanating positivity?
Okay, so first thing is that there are very initial barriers from the supply side. I'm talking about from the small MSME merchants and these retailers, which we are now discussing about. Earlier and retailers, when they are running at, small businesses, when they are running at very, very low margins, for them even a single penny counts, right? So initially, they were very reluctant of using the credit card or the wallet or something like that, because the MDR rates were very high, right? I mean, as compared to today, they were not that high. Okay, I mean 1.5%, 1% or whatever, right? So credit card they used to take, but only because they had the consumer wanted to give it, right? But with now zero transaction fee kind of a thing, where as you rightly said, Prasad, that government is also promoting it, and it has become seamless. It's not that the bank is remitting back to them. It's like now we are moving into a direction where it is direct bank transfers, right? So if I'm taking a payment, I'm a retailer and it's coming to my bank directly, and I'm not being charged for it, I'm happy to take it, right? So that way the adaptation has really grown, and these are the barriers which have been broken to do that. So I think it is a very good thing for everyone, from my perspective, as I see it.
Great. So I think we seem to have Niranjan back on the call. Niranjan, welcome back. So we'll come back to where we left you off, although we've had some additional discussion between Abhinav and Ved since then. But yeah, if quickly you could give the audience an overview of what you do and your general views in terms of how the experience of dealing with both the government and other stakeholders has changed with the evolution of fintech and the entire digital revolution.
Talking about fintech technologies, which have been helping people worldwide to have easy payment, cashless payments, or still to be secure payments. They've been trying their best. I would like to brief about my introduction. I've been after doing my master's from abroad or somewhere people try to get their best education from. I worked in an environment which was 20 years ahead than us in terms of developed nations. I got a chance because of my parents. So after working there for 5 years, I thought I should go back to India to look after my family business also, and to see what I can do for my country. हर किसी के अंदर जब वो बाहर होता है तो थोड़ी देश भावना आती है. And once he's there, and then he realizes, there are certain situations, those are not favorable, and this is positive, this is negative. You start evaluating on certain things. So my first business project was a business school. It gave me have a company of a lot of lecturers, dean, who happened to be in that institution. We recruited late at that time in inception of the institute. So there used to be a lot of discussion about business and how to bring up businesses, because this was a business school. So I developed that I should try more ventures. So we started college, then we started chain of school, then we started a company called Nature Mines, which was importing minerals for industrial use in India, as there was slight scarcity of quality minerals in India, and few of the industries they were struggling. So we were working on those also. So where entrepreneur just I think tries to work on things which can bring him money, which can make him expand. So was, I think, the fintech technology which has been doing now. We generally in our team also we use companies which provide these solutions. So they have been pretty helpful. But on the same time, we've been hearing things about the security issues. Say, for example, I don't want to name any fintech company, but there was one of the workers in our mining zone. We got a call from some that we'll be sending you a link. We'll put money into your, this thing, and he was somehow fished out of 35,000 rupees for a worker like that. 35,000 is a lot money. So security has been an issue. Security definitely has been an issue, although every company has been trying to update that. But it also needs support from local administration, or I should say, agencies which have to, make people abide by laws. So security definitely is a concern these days for most of the people here. There was a company in Noida. I will again not name that company. This company provides almost 2,000 jobs to the people with Noida, and there are people recruited from outside also. So this company 3 months back was shut down because of their server was hacked. So although it is a issue of cyber security, but there are people who make security, and there are people on the same time. Danav or Devta dono hi hai. So again, security has to be upgraded by time. Thanks to Paytm, a company like Paytm, eCash, or Bharat Pay, all these companies, they have been upgrading themselves from time to time. But they still need to be, the research has to be, very high. Yes, please.
Great. So, I think on that point, I'd like to come back to Abhinav. Abhinav, you interact a lot with the end consumer in terms of, in a way, educating them about, what's developing and, what's the way forward, right? And I think the continuous theme in all conversations, whenever we talk about experiences from the user side, whether it's B2B or B2C, is security, right? And again, that's my personal perspective. It's something that I've also heard from a lot of people, is that replenishing any losses in India is far more tougher, right? Even though the rules are there and ultimately you do get replenished, it's much more tougher, right? If you were in the US, for example, it's instantaneous, right? Maybe because also it's a developed market. How do we, or what are the steps do you think that we can take uh, uh, to kind of be able to educate both the providers and the consumers of technology on, how security works? How do they mitigate a situation where they have been, because see, one of the issues is not just the fact that you might lose money on a transaction, right? If the consumer is aware of the fact that, look, this is how you can get your money back, right, and how you can resolve the situation, it kind of takes care of part of the solution, of part of the problem. So how do you see us approaching that? Because I think in terms of user experience, that is one of the greatest enablers that can probably be out there.
Well, Prasad, we've always been taught from childhood that prevention is better than cure. ठीक है, एक बात की दो बात होती है. तो अब most, like, we have a body like AMFI in mutual funds. Because of AMFI's efforts, even an आम आदमी knows, every आम आदमी किसी भी नुक्कड़ पे आदमी को पता है कि म्यूचुअल फंड सही है. ठीक है, वो करे ना करे वो बात की बात है, बट उनको बेसिक आइडिया है कि म्यूचुअल फंड सही है. बहुत लोगों को ये भी नहीं पता होगा म्यूचुअल फंड है क्या. The premise is that we know we need to educate consumers, and it's not only from the fintech companies but also from the government. Although they have been trying that, for example, every bank tells the customer that we don't ask for your ATM pin, we do not want your KYC details, we won't call you for giving your credit card details. But I think the kind of diverse this country is, we fall for the free coffee every time. कि आप अगली बार आइए, अपना डेटा दे दीजिए, आपको फ्री में कॉफी मिलेगी. We belong to a country like that. You go to a Chayos or a CCD, you openly give out your phone number. We do not have data protection rules. Okay, we are a country which is lacking data protection as compared to Europe, which has GDPR, and US, which has its own laws. In a country which is going through a digital transition, digital transformation, of course, from the government end, what we need is strict data regulation laws, that our data cannot be, misused and falling into the hands of any Tom, Dick and Harry. Second, from the consumer perspective, I think what is most important is peer-to-peer advice. Like when I downloaded a payment app, I trusted my friend's advice. I did not go and Google which fintech app is better, which payment app is better. When it comes to finance, I trust my friend. So I think, like in the earlier days, we used to have Chaupal for Kisan. We need to have some initiatives which is decoding and demystifying how fintech apps work, what you should do, what you should not do, how you should use your credit card wisely online. And like Niranjan mentioned, that there was a labor who was fished for 35,000. Now, that is not the fault of a fintech app. That is a fault of his own financial illiteracy and how online disruptions work. I'm sorry, there was some issue with my stand mobile just fell down. We need more communication, not only from the fintech players, but also from the government, in highlighting how fintech works and what should be done and what should not be done. Basic hygiene which should be maintained in the online world as far as your finances is concerned. And not falling for a free coffee every time you go. And so,
so interestingly, the Chayos example that you took, Chayos was actually using facial recognition without permission of users, and exactly. that kind of came up. And interestingly, we had a conversation with one of the quasi regulators, or one of the feeders to the regulators, saying that the data protection, of course it's in the news that the data protection law is on the way, but apparently it's going to be far more draconian than we've ever thought of, so it might be a double-edged sword as well.
Sir, you won't believe, I had a fight at Chayos. They refused to serve me because I did not give my phone number. I mean, I'm entitled not to share my phone number.
Absolutely. And I think that, the data protection laws will rein in that kind of stuff. But, sometimes in India, we tend to make them needlessly draconian. So I think we'll have to be on the watch out for that as well. I think we're coming to the end of this. I'd like to just, wrap this up by saying I think we've realized that the theme today for users is security. Obviously, there will be certain, initiatives, certain events that will drive adoption. People will obviously enjoy the ease with which they are able to transact when such technologies get adopted. But I think it's the security aspect both from a fraud as well as the kind of stuff that we were just talking about that needs to be addressed. And I think the session that we're having is very limited in time for going through all of those in detail, but it does give us ideas, and I'm sure we can pick up these threads as we go along. Our fintech community is evolving, and I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to talk to all of you one-on-one again and go in depth about each of these issues. But today, I thank you for your time. It was really great of you to be here, and I look forward to seeing you on one of our platforms again. Thank you very much, everyone.